a WikiVidi documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. Newsies. Newsies is a 1992 American musical comedy drama film produced by Walt Disney Pictures and directed by choreographer Kenny Ortega in his film directing debut. Loosely based on the New York City Newsboys Strike of 1899, and featuring 12 original songs from composers Alan Menken and J.A.C. Redford, it stars Christian Bale, David Moscow, Bill Pullman, Robert Duvall and Ann-Margret. It was the first completely live-action musical Disney produced. Previous musicals Mary Poppins, Bedknobs, and Broomsticks and Pete's Dragon were live-action, but in animated segments. The film was an initial box office bomb and received negative to mixed reviews at the time of its release, but later gained a large cult following on home video. It was later adapted into a successful stage adaptation on Broadway that was nominated for 8 Tony Awards, winning 2. Plot. In 1899, 17-year-old Jack "Cowboy" Kelly is one of many struggling newspaper hawkers in New York City, selling copies of the New York World on the streets of Manhattan. When David Jacobs and his younger brother Leigh join the Newsies, Jack notices David's intelligence and Leigh marketable cuteness and self-servingly takes them under his wing. Jack is invited to the Jacobs home, becomes enamored of their sister Sarah, and sings of his desire to escape to Santa Fe, New Mexico. Attempting to outdo his business rival William Randolph Hearst, New York World publisher Joseph Pulitzer raises the prices that the Newsies must pay to buy newspapers from his distribution centers. Angered, Jack and David galvanize the other Manhattan Newsies to go on strike. While the others spread the word to Newsies in New York's other boroughs, Jack and Leigh confront Pulitzer and are thrown out of his office. Brian Denton, a reporter for The Sun, takes an interest in the boys' story. Jack and David take their cause to the Brooklyn Newsies, but their leader, Spot Conlon, is reluctant to join the strike. This dejects the Manhattan Newsies, but David riles them up until they ambush the distribution center and destroy all the newspapers. Disabled Newsie, Crutchy, is captured by Pulitzer's enforcers the Delancey brothers and placed in an orphanage called The Refuge, run by the sketchy warden Snyder, who neglects the orphans so he can embezzle money given to him by the city for their care. The Newsies try to ward off strikebreakers, but the struggle turns violent and turns out to be a trap set by the Delanceys. Just as the Newsies are about to be arrested, Spot Conlon arrives. With the Brooklyn Newsies and the two groups unite to repel the police. Denton puts the story on the front page of The Sun, and the Newsies plan to hold a rally. Snyder informs Pulitzer that Jack is an escapee from the Refuge, giving Pulitzer legal cause to have him arrested. Jack has breakfast with Sarah on the roof of the Jacobs apartment building. He tells her of his desire to flee to Santa Fe, and wonders if she would miss him. The police break up the rally and arrest the Newsies, but Denton steps in to pay their legal fines. Snyder testifies against Jack and reveals to the others that Jack's real name is Francis Sullivan. His mother is deceased, and his father incarcerated. Jack is sentenced to 4 years of rehabilitation in the Refuge. Denton is reassigned as a war correspondent, and can no longer report on the strike. Jack is taken to see Pulitzer, who offers to waive his sentence, and pay him a salary if he will work as a strikebreaker. When Pulitzer threatens to have the other Newsies thrown into the Refuge, Jack complies. The boys attempt to rescue Jack, but he tells them to leave. The Newsies are shocked and dismayed to see Jack report for work the next day. When the Delanceys attack the Jacobs children, Jack steps in to save them, knowing this will break his deal with Pulitzer. The Newsies learn from Denton that their strike has had little effect on public opinion, since the city thrives on child labor and Pulitzer has ordered newspapers not to report on the strike. Using an old printing press of Pulitzer's, they publish a Newsie banner, which they distribute to child workers citywide. Denton shares the paper with Governor Theodore Roosevelt, exposing the mistreatment of children at the Refuge. Numerous child laborers join the strike, bringing the city's workforce to a standstill. Jack and David confront Pulitzer, who finally gives in to their demands. Roosevelt has Snyder arrested, releases the children from the Refuge, and thanks Jack for alerting him to the situation. He offers Jack a ride, and Jack asks to be taken to the train yard so he can head to Santa Fe. The Newsies are disheartened by this, but Jack returns shortly, having been convinced by Roosevelt that he still has things to accomplish in New York. As the Newsies celebrate his return, Sarah and Jack kiss and Spot gets a ride back to Brooklyn from Roosevelt. Production. Alan Menken's longtime collaborator, Howard Ashman, was too sick from AIDS to work with Menken on this film, and he would eventually die on March 14, 1991. Menken brought in lyricist Jack Feldman to help. Release. Newsies received negative to mixed reviews from critics and audiences on its release and was a box office bomb, failing to recoup its $15 million budget. Critical reception. On Rotten Tomatoes, the film's average score is 39% based on 35 reviews. Newsies has since gained a measurable cultural fan base. Bale has acknowledged that while it was not a commercial success, its fan base is surprisingly large, saying, "You say something bad about Newsies, and you have an awful lot of people to answer to." Box office. The film grossed $2,819,485 domestically and ranks among the lowest-grossing live-action films produced by the Walt Disney Studios. This is due to the film being pulled from many theaters after a poor opening weekend. Film critic and historian Leonard Maltin called it Howard the Paperboy. Home media. In 1992, the film was released on Walt Disney Home Video, while a collector's edition DVD was released in 2002. Walt Disney Studios Home Entertainment released the film on Blu-ray, as a 20th anniversary edition, on June 19, 2012. Historical strike. The actual Newsboys Strike of 1899 lasted from July 20 to August 2. The leader of the strike was a one-eyed young man named Louis Ballot, nicknamed Kid Blink, who spoke with a heavy Brooklyn accent that was often phonetically transcribed when he was quoted by newspapers. Kid Blink is featured in the film as a minor supporting character, while the role of strike leader is given to the fictional Jack Cowboy Kelly. Blink and another real-life newsie, Morris Cohen, were the inspiration for Kelly. The actual strike ended with a compromise. The World and Journal agreed to buy back all unsold copies of the newspapers. The history of the Newsboys Strike of 1899 is told in David Nassau's book Children of the City, At Work and at Play. Stage adaptation. Disney Theatrical Productions produced a stage musical based on the film that played at the Paper Mill Playhouse in Millburn, New Jersey starting on September 25, 2011 through October 16, starring Jeremy Jordan as Jack and Max Eric as an understudy for Jack. Newsies, the musical contains songs from the movie, as well as several new numbers. The songs, My Lovey-Dovey Baby, and High Times, Hard Times, were left out of the stage adaptation. Also, the characters Denton and Sarah were combined in a musical to create a new character called Catherine Plummer, a plucky young female reporter who is secretly Pulitzer's daughter. On September 19, 2011, the cast, accompanied by composer Alan Menken, performed Seize the Day and Santa Fe on The View. The Paper Mill Playhouse version included new songs, The News is Getting Better, that was replaced on Broadway by The Bottom Line, and Don't Come A-Knocking, that was replaced on Broadway with That's Rich, and the I Never Planned on You / Don't Come A-Knocking medley, and Then I See You Again, sung by Catherine and Jack, was replaced with Something to Believe In. Fansies was the term dubbed to fans of Newsies. During the Paper Mill Playhouse run of the show during Newsies Fan Day, where cast members of the movie and the original musical cast met with fans before the show, the musical opened to previews on Broadway at the Nederlander Theatre for a limited engagement from March 15, 2012 to March 28, 2012 in previews, and from March 29, 2012 to June 10, 2012 in its official engagement. This was later extended through August 19, 2012 after just the first weekend of previews, and then extended again, this time to an open-ended run. They performed King of New York in the Thanksgiving Day Parade. The show went on to earn 8 Tony Award nominations, including Best Musical, winning Best Choreography and Best Original Score. It is currently on a US tour and a separate Italian tour. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Would you like to know more?